shared our bedroom secrets during a drunken game night. His face turned to stone instantly. Hello, Reddits. My name is Sarah, and I'm 32 years old. I've been married for 5 years now, but my husband has now decided to end things between us in the most dramatic way. I am at fault, and I know that for sure, but I'm really scared of losing him completely. I cannot afford to. Adam means everything to me, and I don't know how to cope with this sudden absence of him in my life. I didn't mean to do it. I was so drunk, and I didn't even realize what I was doing until I saw his face. Adam had stared at me with so much anger and bitterness that I froze in that spot, and then what had happened next had just been really shocking, and now he doesn't even want to see me. You see, things weren't always this way between us. In fact, Adam loves me so much that he was always willing to do anything and everything for me. We met about 6 years ago at a function that I had been brought to by my friend who was related to the host of the event. Adam had bumped into me when he was trying to leave, and his clothes had been stained with the drink in my hand. I panicked and tried helping him get rid of the stain, but it only got worse, and Adam had been patient and kind. He didn't even scream at me for ruining his rather expensive shirt, and he had just smiled and told me to forget about it and then left. I was surprised and touched by the way he had spoken, and I took an instant liking to him. We met again, coincidentally, at a toy store where he had apparently come to pick up a toy for his niece, whose birthday was close. I was also there to pick up toys for my pregnant sister, who was decorating her baby's room. At first, I thought he had been trying to pick toys for his child, and when I saw him having difficulty choosing the toys, I approached him and offered help, which he gladly accepted. It was only when we were both done shopping and we had left the toy store that Adam had asked for my name and asked for my number. I was really reluctant to give him, because even though he was really attractive, I thought he was married, and it must have shown on my face exactly what I thought when my eyes kept darting from the shopping bag in his hand to him. He laughed and told me exactly who it was for. I gave him my number then, and then our love story just started from there. Adam and I would text every day so much it became an almost addiction. I couldn't go to bed if I didn't receive texts from Adam or hear his voice over the phone while he talked about random things. I was so in love with Adam, and by the time our friendship was a month old, I was getting restless when he wouldn't ask me out. I was sure I was showing him the right signs, and I was sure he liked me too. But for some reason, Adam kept hesitating, so I took matters into my own hands and asked Adam out myself when we went out together on a date one evening. You see, I've always been the kind of woman who liked having things done quickly. I hated having to wait or something. It made me anxious, and I tend to do things good or bad when in an anxious state. My last relationship before Adam had been so short-lived because I was really anxious. He kept beating around the bush about marriage, and I thought he loved me enough and wanted to get married to me, and when he still wouldn't do it after a month, I bought him a ring and had a public proposal. Not exactly public, but all our friends were there, and we were just chilling that day when I went down on my knees and proposed to him. But he had been so shocked, and then the shock had morphed into anger, and he ended things right there on the spot. I discovered about 2 months after breaking up with him that he was actually married with 1 kid and that he was just cheating on his wife with me. So yes, I have always been a take action sort of person, even as a kid. And so when I asked Adam, he had been really surprised but had refused the offer. Not as harshly and embarrassing as my ex had done, though. He was quite mature about it, and he had explained the main reason why he was rejecting my offer. He wanted to be the one to ask me out himself, not the other way round. He finally asked me out a week after the whole asking him out myself thing. I really was joyous, and I said yes instantly. Adam was just really the perfect man. I don't mean that he didn't have his own downside, but his good sides overrode his bad sides. Adam was patient, kind, and loving. He was also so romantic. In all the years I've known him, he had never made me doubt the love he had for me. He would send me a bouquet of flowers and gifts any time he was out of town, just to let me know that he was thinking of me. I would fall asleep to his voice on the phone, telling me how much he misses me. And when he came back, it was always almost like we had been away from each other for years and wanted to just make up for the lost time. Our friends envied our relationship so much, especially my girls. They were always praying and wishing they had someone like him as their boyfriends, and I would feel a sense of pride. I love Adam so much, and I was so sure I still am sure that I could never come across someone like him ever again, which is one of the reasons I'm here desperately seeking some sort of help to just get me out of this mess I've put myself in. Adam proposed to me on our 1-year anniversary, and it had been so sweet. It had been everything I dreamt my proposal would be and more. I loved how he gathered our families and friends and had booked a rather romantic restaurant just to ask me to marry him. It was really memorable, and when I close my eyes, I can still picture that day very correctly in my head. Our whole relationship really was a whirlwind, to be honest, and within a space of 6 weeks, we were officially man and wife, and honestly, I felt so satisfied and happy. But then there came the part that started to have effects on our marriage, mostly from me. You see, through our relationship, Adam never had sex with me. Not because he was a virgin, and I obviously wasn't too. But he had made a promise that he wanted to keep me until marriage because he apparently cared too much about me to just want our relationship based on sex. He wanted us to be connected on deeper levels, and at first I didn't understand his decision, but eventually I went with it. Even though I tried sometimes to get him to sleep with me, Adam had been very strict, and he managed to convince me otherwise each time. When we finally got married, I knew there was no excuse not to have sex, and we finally did it. I was disappointed. Adam didn't last long in bed, and within some minutes he was done. It was very frustrating, and I assumed it was because of the wedding stress that caused it. But a month passed, and Adam still wasn't able to satisfy me sexually. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't exactly like I was sleeping around before I met him, but I was no saint either. I only slept with 2 men before I met Adam, and the last one had been my ex. The first guy, well, he's a different story to tell entirely. But from my past experience with just those 2 men, I still was able to understand just what it meant to be sexually satisfied. I never told Adam how I felt, though. I never once mentioned it to him that I was getting sexually frustrated, although now I wonder if that was the best decision I could have made then. I could have easily told him, and knowing the sort of person Adam is, he would have tried to sort out the problem. But I didn't. I didn't tell him and kept everything to myself. I even pretended to be sexually sated when we finished having sex. I moan and pretend to have an orgasm, and at the end of the day, I would have to help myself in the bathroom to finish off, if you get what I mean. It continued like that for a whole year, and I was really getting frustrated by it. I couldn't tell anyone. Everyone thought our marriage was perfect, and it really was to save that one thing. Adam was still as caring and loving as ever. He provided for my needs and never complained whenever I spent too much. He gave me free access to everything he owns, and I really was married to a good man. But that didn't make it any less frustrating being with a man who cannot even help me have an orgasm. I started to really crave having good sex again, and I knew it certainly wasn't going to be with Adam. But I promise you, I didn't cheat on him in the first 2 years of our marriage. I endured it all, and I told myself that it didn't matter that I wasn't sexually satisfied. So long Adam ensured I was satisfied on other levels, then it was fine. But going into the 3rd year, I was losing my mind, and I had gone and done an awful thing, really. It really was a mistake, but I couldn't get myself to tell Adam for fear of him leaving me, so I kept it a secret and was grateful when he didn't even suspect a thing. I met this stranger at a bar on a Friday. Adam was out of town for work, and originally we had planned to spend that weekend together indoors and just bonding, but he got called to work and it was a matter of urgency. So I was left alone with nothing to do other than watch TV. So instead of sulking at home, I had called my friend to meet up with me at the bar, and she agreed. I dressed up and went to the bar and was waiting for her a full-on 30 minutes before she called to apologize and tell me something came up and she had to cancel. So there I was, sitting with a beer in hand and sitting alone, and this stranger had walked up to me and offered to buy me another drink. I ignored him at first, but he made himself comfortable by sitting right next to me, and he started chatting nonstop to me. I wasn't interested in anything he had to say, but eventually something he said got my attention, and I started to ask him questions. We spent over 2 hours together at that bar just talking, and then it was time to go. I knew that Adam always called me around midnight whenever he travels, so I wanted to leave so I could go home and wait for his call. But this stranger had offered to drive me home, and apparently he didn't drink, so he was sober while I was already getting tipsy from just a bottle of beer. I'm a lightweight, especially when it comes to drinking. He drove me home and escorted me to the door, and when I turned to thank him for the night and wave him bye, he grabbed me by the door and kissed me. I was shocked, and then he must have seen that as an approval because he went further to kiss my neck and shoulder blade right in front of my door. Thankfully, it was already too dark for anyone to see us, and I knew that Mrs. Nola, our old neighbor, would be asleep by then. I had already unlocked my door before I turned, so he just pushed me back into the house and locked the door behind him. I was shocked at his audacity, but I just still couldn't speak, so I kept looking at him very confused. Or maybe he didn't mind the look on my face. He just wanted a booty call, and I was an available option. He removed his clothes quickly, and then helped remove mine, which was pretty easy, because it was a zipper dress. And then before I could say jack, he was already inside me and slamming really hard into me. I couldn't complain. It felt so much like what I had in the past with my exes, those rough and uncontrollable sex. Adam was different. He was gentle with me like he thinks I'm going to break anytime soon if he wasn't careful. I had 2 orgasms that night, and then the stranger finally had his. After the whole thing, he kissed my cheek and thanked me for the night before he left. I laid there on the floor naked and wondering what the hell it was that I had just done. I felt so dirty, and especially after the way he had thanked me for the night. I behaved totally like a sex worker, only that the job was for free. I felt really guilty, and I just knew I had to keep it a secret from Adam. So when he called that night, I refused to pick and even switched off my phone afterwards, because I didn't know what to say or how to react, especially when minutes ago I was getting down and dirty with a total stranger. I couldn't tell anyone about it for fear that it might eventually get to Adam, so I kept it to myself and hoped that it wouldn't bounce back at me, and also that I didn't drown under all my guilt. I eventually started to relax when weeks passed, and months too afterwards, and it felt like my actions had no consequences. So I tried to forget it and move on with my life. Everything was all right with us, and we were still as in love as we always were, if not more. But then there was another problem. I couldn't get pregnant no matter how hard I tried. I was doing crazy things that I was told by different people on ways to get pregnant, and yet getting the same results. So a friend had told me to visit the fertility clinic, and I had convinced Adam to go with me. It was then we found out that Adam had low sperm count, but it was treatable, so he started to use drugs for it. I blamed everything on him, though. The fact that I didn't have a child yet was his problem, and I was the one running around trying to find a solution to our problem. We had arguments because of it, mostly with me blaming him and screaming while Adam just watched me, and when I was calm, he would apologize and promise me that we were going to get through it together. But I didn't feel assured, especially when we went to parties, and we got those uncomfortable questions about our plans for children, or my mom had called to ask when she was going to become a grandma. Adam kept trying to make it up to me. He would visit the clinic regularly for checkups, and he took his drugs meticulously, never missing a single day. He took note of all the precautions, and he never stopped apologizing. And instead of being the supportive wife that I could have been, I kept blaming him for not rectifying the error before we met. And there was still the issue of not being sexually satisfied. I started to even see Adam as inadequate. He couldn't get me pregnant and also couldn't satisfy me sexually. And I used that against him, especially when we had arguments. Adam tried severely to mend the bridge between us, but I was just adamant, and I kept refusing to stop fighting him. It was my only way of coping with the sexual frustration. I didn't want to cheat on him again, but then I eventually did. Again. And this time it had been with someone very close to us. Adam's friend, whom they've been friends with for several years, had decided to come into town and spend some months there. He was apparently recovering from a difficult divorce, which had swept him clean of nearly everything he had. And he was apparently not even granted custody of his kids. Now I wonder if there had been another reason, other than the one he told us for his wife being granted custody of their kids. Maybe he was also cheating on her, and she had gathered evidence. Maybe he was abusive, or perhaps he was just the wrong parent for the kids to be with. But then I believed him, and Adam did too. He had come to seek refuge in our house, and Adam had asked if I was comfortable with it, and since I pitied him after hearing his story, I agreed. That agreement has now been my biggest regret, because maybe if I hadn't agreed to it at all, then everything that happened wouldn't have. So that was how Sam started living with us in the guest room quite far from our bedroom. At first, there was nothing other than platonic friendship between us. While I cooked, he would offer to help or keep me company, and then when I was done with food, he'd offer to do the dishes as some payment for feeding him. We became movie buddies because we enjoyed the same genre of movies. So when Adam was out for work, we would settle down with different series of movies and watch them together. I enjoyed his company because he was smart and thoughtful. He also noticed things easily. Like that morning when I had a bad night because as usual I got my period. No pregnancy again that month. And I was so pissed that when Adam tried to reach for me and draw me into his arms to pacify me, I screamed at him and he left me alone to go to his library. He slept there and I felt really bad the next morning and had gone to look for him, but he had already gone to work. I wasn't happy and Sam had noticed and then pestered me to tell him what was wrong. Within minutes, I found myself telling him about my sexual frustrations and Adam's inability to get me pregnant. It was the first time I was talking to someone about it all. And what I didn't know then was that I was speaking to the wrong person. Sam had tried to pacify me, and he hugged me while patting my back. I don't know when the feeling had changed from being relieved to have someone to talk to about the things bothering me to being sexually aware like I had never been before of Sam. I quickly retracted and went to my room and stayed there all day. I blamed my reaction on raging hormones because I was in my menstrual period and tried to forget about it. But it wasn't exactly easy to forget because it seemed Sam had known I felt something different that day. And each day after that day, he tried to capture my attention with different things. Like how he had decided to bathe in the bathroom across the hallway because his bathroom was bad, and he had done so very naked. Or like how he had decided to roam the house doing some heavy lifting and arranging things that were clearly in place shirtless, so I could probably see his ripped muscles. Or it was how he decided that he was the one picking the movies, and he kept picking the ones that were full of sexual scenes in them. Well, all he did made me even more sexually aware of him, instead of doing the opposite. And believe me, I tried hard to fight the feelings. And I almost suggested to Adam to tell his friend to get an apartment instead of living with us, but I knew Adam would suspect something, so I kept mute. Soon the only thing keeping me from having sex with Sam was my last shred of dignity and the respect I had for Adam, but eventually even that fell away. And I found myself in Sam's arms, sweaty and moaning out loud his name as he found new ways to pleasure me. It was that particular sunny afternoon. Adam was out of the house as usual, and I purposely stayed away from the living room because I was very horny that day. I didn't want to be tempted, so I tried staying away. But then Sam had called me on my phone, despite being only a few steps away from me in the house, and when I picked up, he asked if I had drugs for headache, and my response had been positive, so he begged me to help him bring the drug to his room. I didn't think that there was an ulterior motive to his idea, so I took the drug, and also some water to his room, and when Sam had taken the drug, he pleaded with me to stay with him until he felt better, and I stupidly agreed. Then Sam reached for me and kissed me. I was shocked and at the same time thrilled, so I didn't even bother trying to reject his advance. He sat up very well and continued kissing me when I didn't make any move to push him away. His kiss was different from Adam's. Adam's kisses were soft and gentle, and it made me feel at home and safe any time he ran his lips over my face and lips, but Sam's own was very different. It was rough and at the same time still turned me on greatly. I was naked within seconds. It was pretty easier than the first time I slept with that stranger because this time I was only wearing a huge top with nothing underneath it. The top was Adam's, and it became my favorite top because of how comfortable it was. After the whole thing had happened between us, I wore my big top back and raced to my room. I didn't know what to think. My body ached in areas I never thought of possible to ache from just sex. Sam clearly knew what he was doing, and he did it well. I knew that once I had crossed that bridge, there was no crossing back. I suppressed my guilt by changing my top into a short and top, as if to erase what I had just done. Adam came home early that night, and as the three of us sat across one another in the dining room eating, I felt so uncomfortable. I cannot say the same for Sam because he kept on chatting with my husband as if he hadn't been the one to get down and dirty with his wife a few hours ago. The next day was a Sunday, and Adam was home throughout, and he spent time with me. But the more time we spent together, the more I couldn't stop thinking about Sam. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't in love with him. I knew I wasn't, but I was addicted to the sex. The sex had been great, and I wanted another repeat of it to reaffirm whether it truly wasn't just because I was horny. So when Adam had left for work that Monday, I wore my sexiest lingerie that Adam bought me and went to Sam's room to seduce him. It was easier than I thought, and before I could say Jack, we were having sex again in his room. From that day forward, it became our everyday routine. I became so addicted to sex with Sam that sometimes I would sneak out of the room at night when I was certain that Adam was asleep just to go have sex with Sam. Sam was never too tired or too stressed to touch me the way I wanted to be touched, and it pleased me greatly. On days that Adam was out of town were usually the worst times. Sometimes we didn't leave the bed except when we were hungry. We would saunter around the house naked and ready for any sex game every time. It was pretty wild. I was happy because I was handling both relationships pretty well with one of them clueless about the other, and I thought I would never get caught. In fact, I grew more confident by the day, so sure that there was no way Adam could find out about it. But life doesn't always give you what you want, especially when you're just a bad person. And that was what happened in my case too. Adam had found out in the worst possible way, and I really do not know how to get back from this, honestly. We were invited for a get-together party, game night, by a schoolmate of Adam. And since Sam also attended the same school, he was invited too. Adam had asked me to go as his date, and I agreed, which is one of the things I regret now. I shouldn't have gone. I should have just feigned illness and stayed back at home. Perhaps I wouldn't be in this mess that I am in currently. So the day of the party came, and Adam had driven Sam and I to the party. It was something unexpected because I had expected the party to be really small, but it was booming with people inside, and I felt really awkward. I stuck to Adam, but with him getting pulled away every minute to greet someone else that he knew, I had only the people at the table I sat for company. Even Sam was socializing. I drank the sparkly drink placed in front of me, thinking maybe it was just water, or perhaps a drink with little alcohol. I was wrong. I was tipsy just from a glass of the drink. Soon the host announced the different games that everyone could play, and he had selected our table to play the truth and dare game. When I said life hates me, I really wasn't lying. Because as they passed the questions already prepared by the host around to the person whom the bottle was spinned to, I was feeling really giddy. When it finally got to my turn and I was asked a secret that no one else knew about my family, I laughed and began to spill everything about my marriage. I wanted to stop, but I just couldn't. I just kept going. I spoke about how sexually unsatisfied I was in my marriage, and how I found out that Adam had low sperm count, and how I have cheated twice, one with a stranger and the other one with Sam. It was only when I finished recounting and confessing my sins that I realized what I had done, especially when I looked in front of me and saw how stony Adam's face had become. Miraculously, the alcohol cleared off, and I was face to face with the consequences of my actions. The whole place was quiet then, and they were all looking from me to Adam, and then to Sam, who had stood up but didn't get far, because Adam had grabbed him by his clothes and punched him, and then he had left. I could feel the eyes on me and the judgment, but I didn't care. All I cared about and was so scared of was Adam's reaction. He had looked so angry, and I know from a one-time experience how angry Adam can be. I took a walk of shame out of the party and hailed a cab to take me home. When I arrived home, Adam was smashing our wedding picture, and he was throwing my things out of the room. I begged him to stop, and I begged him to hear me out, but Adam was just so angry and he wouldn't hear what I had to say. Not that I did have much to say but to apologize, but Adam wasn't even listening at all to me. When I tried to grab him, he had removed his hand so fast it was like I burnt him. When he finally turned to face me, his eyes were as hard as rock. He told me to leave and never return, and he also told me that the next I will hear from him was from his lawyer. I tried so hard to plead, but Adam's mind was made up. Not even my tears or my kneeling would get him to change his mind. I had to rent a motel to keep my things inside while trying to think of a way to get Adam to forgive me. It's been 4 days now, and I've been going back to the house every day, but I haven't even gotten a hold of him. He changed the lock key, and when I went to his office, the security guard wouldn't let me through. I knew based on instructions. I don't know how or when, but I know that I have to get Adam to forgive me. I really am desperate. I really love him and cannot lose him. Please, guys, what do you think I should do? Update. Hello, Reddits. This is my second post here, and I'm here wondering if life was ever unfair to me, or I was the only one who decided to do bad things, not just because circumstances brought them. The stranger, and then Sam. Life had brought them my way, but then it still is all my fault. I could have easily resisted them, and I could have made a decision and stuck to it. I should have seen the end from the beginning and realized that it wasn't all worth it. I should have known that I will definitely be the one to lose the most. It's so sad how I have eventually turned out. Sad, broken, and full of so much regrets. It's been 4 weeks and 3 days since Adam found out about my affair and had thrown me out of the house, and I can say I have never been as miserable as I am right now. It's like every day there's another level of misery waiting for me to start my day. 2 days after my first post, my parents had called me and asked me if what they were hearing was true. I couldn't deny it, and they had been so disappointed and pissed and have not spoken to me since then. My friends all disappeared from my life. It was clear who they supported and who they thought was the monster who couldn't commit to just one man. I have no one and nobody to rely on, and everybody hates me, even you guys who haven't met me yet but are already judging me. I know I deserve it all. I know I did horrible things, and all of these things are just rewards of my sin, but it still doesn't make it hurt any less. But then nothing hurts as much as losing the most important person in my life. I was selfish and greedy and not satisfied with the good life I had on the platter of gold, and I threw it all away for sex, and now I have lost everything. It hurts me so deeply when I remember that night that Adam had looked at me like I was some disgusting creature. When he looked at me for the first time since we've been together, his eyes weren't full of laughter and love for me, and his eyes weren't teasing or promising beautiful things. His eyes were just hard on me and made me feel so dirty. The greatest punishment I received was losing Adam, and I really don't think I can ever get over the loss of him. He had been nothing but good to me, and yet all I rewarded him was betrayal and hurt. I know that Adam will never forgive me, and living in that revelation has been hard, really hard. I just stupidly and desperately wish that all of these were dreams that I will wake up from. I wish I had a chance to do over so that when I meet those men that have contributed to ruining my life and marriage, I would have run so fast and never look back. I have lost everything now. Everything and everything. Update. Hello, Reddits. This is my final post here. It's been another month and I'm officially divorced. I've signed the divorce papers and I feel like that's the only thing that I could ever do to pay for my sins. Letting him go finally. I don't have any right to hold on to him when I was the one who caused him to leave in the first place. It doesn't mean I wasn't still feeling desperate to hold on to him, but then I know that this is my punishment, not being able to hold on to him. Words cannot still express just how much I regret everything I did to Adam, despite everything he had done for me. The crazy thing is, the person I have now lost everything for is nowhere to be found. He just disappeared like that in thin air after that night, and I don't know where, nor do I care. But I just feel so much regret that I had lost Adam because of someone like him. My parents are still not speaking to me, and my sister only calls to check in on me once in a while, but even that feels forced. I feel so alone, and there's nobody I can tell what's going on in my head. Well, except on this platform, and even then, you guys don't obviously like me, so it's clear I'm so unwanted both in reality and here. I think about Adam every minute, and I miss him so much. Even though I know I'm not worthy of missing him, I still do. He was the one person who understood my emotions before I even said them at all, and he made sure I was happy all the time. He was always a constant figure in my life, never stopping his love for me, but always finding new interesting ways to love me. But now I've managed to push away that one person who did so much for me and that I did so little for, and I know I will forever pay the price for that. Maybe forever. Or maybe forever isn't enough to pay for my sins. Goodbye, guys. I hope you don't end up like me, guilty and full of regrets and also a loner.